Hey, what's up you guys? This is Rob from The Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Quick Draw we're gonna hit it and quit it as we rampage through multiple quickies when we take a look at all of the MK1 weapons. So for many of us seasoned veterans, these MK1 weapons won't mean much to us other than Mastery Fodder, since they are downgrades of the respective versions. So I'm sure there are a few of you out there that are a bit peeved that I'm doing a video on them. But for those fresh-faced Warframe newbies just being eased into a world of Discord, elitism, and blind fanboying, these MK1 weapons may pop the cherries of their maiden voyage into the star chart. Now, in addition to the MK1 Bratton, we now have access to the MK1 versions of the Paris, Strun, Furus, Kunai, Bow, and Firax. From my own personal experience, I think that this is an awesome way for people to experiment without putting their wallet at risk. Now when it comes to acquisition, you can find all of the MK1 weapons in the marketplace for 15,000 credits, which isn't half bad considering that completing a few alerts can easily pay your way into a new weapon. And as for the vets, it's a lot of cheap mastery points. So in the following stat boxes, you'll see red numbers indicating the MK1 version of the weapon. If there are no red numbers, that means that the stats are identical to the standard version. So let the quickies begin. The MK1 Bratton is a fairly standard fully automatic assault rifle. The majority of its base damage is in slashing, which means it will perform well against fleshy targets like the Infested, Corpus Crewmen once you've eaten through their shields, and some of the lighter armored Grineer. Upgrading to the standard version will give you a boost in its fire rate, base damage, crit chance, and status chance. Strangely enough, the standard Bratton does have a smaller magazine capacity as compared to its MK1 version. You can pick up the standard Bratton in the market for 25,000 credits. The MK1 Paris is your standard bow. You can fire a quick shot with a single click or charge it to double its damage, increase its flight speed, improve its flight arc, and give it punch through. It's also silent and has innate physics impact, causing dead bodies to collide and deal damage to any enemy units caught in its trajectory. It mainly deals puncture damage, making it great at taking on armored targets like the Grineer. Upgrading to the standard version will increase its base damage. While its blueprint is available in the market for 20,000 credits, you'll need to farm Morphics and Palmer bundles, which can be done on Mercury straight off the bat. However, the earliest you can get Nanospores and Plastids is on Saturn. The MK1 Strun is your close-quarter semi-automatic shotgun. Its primary base damage is impact with a decent chunk vested in slashing, making this weapon perfect for taking down Corpus shielding. Now, the Strun is great for run-and-gun types of strategies, as it excels when you get up close and personal with your enemies. However, its reload time is a bit slow, so it's best to get in and out in order to not take too much damage. Upgrading to the standard version will increase its fire rate as well as its base damage. You can pick up the standard version in the market for 25,000 credits. Now let's move on to the secondaries. The MK1 Furus is an automatic machine pistol. Its primary base damage is puncture, which works well against the Grineer, but may have some trouble taking on other factions without the proper elemental combos. Now, if this is your first time with this type of weapon, be aware that low damage and high fire rate make it a bit of an ammo hog, so burst firing is definitely recommended. Now, upgrading to its standard counterpart will increase its fire rate as well as its base damage. You can pick up the blueprints in the market for 15,000 credits and start farming the ferrite needed on Mercury. As for the rest of its components, you can pick up the alloy plate as early as Venus, the salvage as early as Mars, and the neurodes as early as Earth. The MK1 Kunai is a basic set of throwing knives with a primary focus in puncture damage that again is great against the Grineer. This is another silent weapon and also features physics impact. Much like the Paris, its projectiles do have a slight arc to their trajectory, which is more apparent at longer ranges, so be sure to compensate your aim as needed. Upgrading to the standard version will increase its base damage, yet for some strange reason, slightly lowers its crit chance as well as its critical multiplier. You can pick up the standard Kunai's blueprints in the market for 15,000 credits and start farming for the Morphics and Ferret as early as Mercury. However, you'll have to wait till Mars for the salvage and Jupiter for the Nanospores. Okay, it's melee time. The MK1 bow is a big, long stick. Its primary damage type is impact with a tiny bit of puncture, gearing it towards battering Corpus shields. As compared to the rest of the starting melee weapons, it has the longest range, which gives it a better chance to hit multiple enemies. Upgrading to its standard version will only provide a boost in its base damage. Its blueprints are available in the market for 15,000 credits, and you can start farming for ferrite on Mercury, but will have to wait for the alloy plate till you have access to Venus, the salvage till you can get to Mars, and the Orokin cells on Saturn. However, do note that the bosses in assassination missions also have a chance to drop the cells. The MK1 Firax is a set of big metal boxing gloves. Like the bow, its primary damage type is impact and works well against the Corpus. Now, this set of weapons has a nice base crit chance and crit multiplier. While it isn't the greatest at hitting multiple targets at once, its critical hits will be quite devastating. Upgrading to the standard version will give you a slight boost to its base damage. Again, the standard Firaxis blueprint is available in the market for 15,000 credits, and you can start farming the ferrite the second you hit Mercury. The alloy plate will be available on Venus, the salvage on Mars, and the nanospores as early as Saturn. Okay, all of these weapons should give new players a lot to experiment with, and has also got me to thinking. So, can we talk? Okay, so I usually don't throw things out to you guys, but I want to know how you feel about the following statement. I would rather experiment with a total stranger than with someone I'm in a long-term relationship with. Now, to clarify, I don't mean that I would want to experiment with someone else while I'm in a long-term relationship, but rather experiment with strangers while I'm single. Now, I feel this way mainly because with a stranger you can do weird shit and not have to worry about having to see them ever again. Hell, if it's weird enough, they may not even last the night. But at the very least, you get the experience and you can test out what works and what doesn't. Cause let's face it, if you're in a relationship, you gotta see them every day, knowing that they know that you did that thing that one time that didn't work out so well, and now they think you're a bit crazy and wonder what other secrets you're keeping in the back of your dirty, dirty mind. However, if you manage to get your practice in beforehand, when you finally do that thing, this time it was pretty hot because you knew that if you did that thing with your thing, that they think it's a good thing and not that you are some weird, crazy perv. Now, the only thing that could possibly go wrong with experimenting with strangers is that if you do it enough, word might spread that you're that one guy that does that one weird thing. But regardless, let me know what you guys think, and let's get back to the quick draw. So all in all, I think the MK1s are an excellent, if not slightly odd addition to our roster of weapons. While I can't complain about cheap mastery points, I do find it extremely strange the stats aren't too dramatically different from their counterparts. I get that the devs don't want to handicap new players, but if I was put in a position where I couldn't afford too much, the difference between a good number of the standard and MK1 versions are so minor that there's really no point in upgrading before you have access to clan tech or even some of the more accessible prime weapons. On that same note, there are standard weapons that are available in the market to purchase for only 10,000 credits more than the MK1 weapons. So wouldn't you just want to run a couple extra missions and get a more powerful version instead? Regardless, it's not for me to worry about. All I need to do is shut my trap and grind my way to Mastery Rank 17. So thank you all for watching another episode of the Quick Draw. I think I'm going to toss up my video on how to build optimized primaries and melee weapon videos, since this is geared for the fresh meat. However, if you haven't checked them out, I am quite formulaic and in some cases even show off the math on how optimized builds work. Now, be sure to do the thing that I ask you to do at the end of every one of these, and as always, stay tuned for more experimenting here at A Gay Guy Plays. Dear Lord God, all this talk about being a veteran reminds me of the days when we didn't even have Forma.